Hello, my name is Arthur Welzio. I'm here to give you the expert testimony. On October 7th, 2019, Beverly Coates called 911 of an attempted breaking and entering by her mentally handicapped neighbor, Bob Smith. The purpose of the lab was to find out if the tools matched the same ones that Bob Smith had in his garage. I believe it was tool number 12 because one cutting mark matched the form of number 12 because it was sharp edged and it had like a form of a triangle. And also many abrasion marks were found on the wood, and the abrasion marks were 1 millimeter wide. Now I'm going to disprove the all other tools. Tool number 1 was a pair of pliers with an orange handle. Just the tool metal was 110 millimeters. The face of the tool was 15 millimeters and 18 striations. And closed, the pliers, when they were closed, it was 10 millimeters. Trace evidence was found, 10 millimeter width, and striations were found on the metal. Cutting mark. With one hand, it was 10 millimeters. The width, if you held it with two hands, was 5 millimeters. I would disprove the pliers because the abrasion marks found on the wood do not match the same width that number 12 would have done. Moving on to the next tool. Tool number 2 was a chisel with the yellow handle. The tool metal was 100 millimeters. The tip of the tool was 108 millimeters. The whole tool was 180 millimeters, and the tip was 2 millimeters. For abrasion, we found a dent at the top of the chisel. There was lots of rusting on the metal, striation marks, and the width of it was 19 millimeters. I would disprove this one too because a chisel is too thick to make those marks that were found on the wood. Tool number 3. It was a screwdriver with the yellow handle. The tip of the tool was 15 millimeters. The tool metal was 200 millimeters, and the whole tool was 300 millimeters. For abrasion mark, it was worn out from the metal tip, striations at the end of it. There was lots of spiral visibles, and it had a 10 millimeter scratch. I would disprove this one too because again it is too thick to make that 1 millimeter abrasion mark, and the other like circles that were found on the wood. Tool number 4 was another screwdriver. The tool metal was 145 millimeters. The whole tool was 255 millimeters. The tip was 8 millimeters, and for abrasion, we found thin scratches, lots of rusting, and there was abrasion marks at the top of the tool. For cutting mark, there was striation marks. There was a 20 millimeter scratch on it. I would disprove this one because the tool is too thick again to make that mark. It could have possibly been made with the top, but the tip is just too thick. Tool number 5. It was a star screwdriver. The tool metal was 153 millimeters. The whole tool was 270 millimeters, and the tip was 8 millimeters. Abrasion mark was an 8 millimeter scratch, and on the tip it has lots of striation marks. Cutting mark description: 10 millimeter scratch. I would disprove this tool because it leaves. Because When you do a cutting mark, it leaves scratches. But on the wood, there was circles, not scratches. Tool number 6 was a file. The metal part was 148 millimeters. The place where you, no. The whole tool was 140 millimeters, and the tip was 8 millimeters. On the abrasion marks, we found on abrasion mark description, we found thin marks. For a cutting mark, we found 2 lines. The file couldn't have possibly made this mark on the wood because on the abrasion marks on it, they're too thin for a file to have made it, because the file tip was 8 millimeters, and the width of the scratches, the abrasion on the wood, were 1 millimeter. So that's obviously not it. Tool number 7 were a pair of pliers. The tip was 4 millimeters, metal part 84 millimeters, and the whole tool was 185 millimeters. Both sides of the pliers show striations and small dents. We found striation marks, and some of the marks were about 5 millimeters wide. I would disprove the pliers again because the tip was 4 millimeters, and on the wood it was 1 millimeter with the tip. Tool number 8 was a chisel. The chisel had a 24 millimeter tip. The metal part was 70 millimeters, and like the widest point on it was 67 millimeters. We found abrasion marks on the sides and some rusting. Cutting mark, 24 millimeter width. Again, I would disprove this tool because those 3 circles found on the wood can't have been made by the chisel. Tool number 9. It was another screwdriver with a black and yellow handle. The tip was 4 millimeters, and the whole tool was 7.5 millimeters. For abrasion mark, there was 2 lines visible, and for cutting mark, it made medium thin cuts. I would disprove this tool because when it made cutting marks, it was 4 millimeters. And again, for the wood, it was 1 millimeter. So the screwdrivers couldn't have made no mark. Tool number 10 was another screwdriver with a tip of 7 millimeters and the whole tool being 140 millimeters. For abrasion mark, it made striations and thin cuts. Trace evidence. Metal chips were found as trace evidence. I would disprove the screwdriver because the tip was 7 millimeters and the wood was 1 millimeter wide. Okay, tool number 11 was another screwdriver with the tip being 4 millimeters and the whole tool being 131 millimeters. For abrasion, it made scratches, and for cutting mark, it made an X-shaped cut. 4 millimeters wide. 4 millimeters wide. This tool could not have been because it made, as I said right now, for cutting mark, it made 4 millimeters. And that the mark on the wood was 1 millimeter wide, so it couldn't have been tool number 11. finally, tool number 12 was, I think it was like a chisel. The tip was 1 millimeter. The tip was 1 millimeter. The whole tool was 16 millimeters. And the metal part was 600, no, it was 6 and 9/10 of a millimeter. I don't know if I said that right, but for cutting mark, I made a 1 millimeter wide scratch, and my results were that tool number 12 was responsible for the marks on the window because it had a 1 millimeter tip, and on the wood there was also 1 millimeter. And there was one mark found that had a triangle shape, and tool number 12 also had a triangle shape. Okay, so my conclusion again is that it was number 12 because it was tool number 12 because tool number 12 had a 1 millimeter tip that also matched with the 1 millimeter width found on the wood, and there was also one mark, like it was a cutting mark found on the wood that was the triangle, and the form that it has is also a triangle. 4 possible errors in my analysis could have been that I measured wrong, that I could have contaminated evidence, and that I could have measured the crime scene wrong, and I could have gotten the tool wrong. And that's it.